Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most shocking and little-known military mistakes in recent US history. A moment when 6 nuclear warheads were mistakenly flown across the country on a B-52 bomber without anyone realizing they were live. This isn't a Cold War ghost story. It happened in 2007. And the scariest part? The nukes were missing for over 36 hours. Before we get into it, don't forget, giving this video a like and subscribing really helps the channel grow. If you enjoy this kind of content and want more, that's the best way to support what we're doing. Let's rewind to August 29th, 2007. At the Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota, ground crews were preparing a B-52 Stratofortress for a routine transfer mission. The task was to move several unarmed cruise missiles, specifically AGM-129 advanced cruise missiles, to Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana for decommissioning. But here's where the nightmare begins. 6 of those cruise missiles weren't unarmed. Due to a shocking string of procedural failures, each of them still carried a live W-81 nuclear warhead. Each warhead packed about 150 kilotons of explosive power, roughly 10 times the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. And no one knew. The 6 nuclear-armed missiles were mistakenly loaded onto the bomber's wing pylons and left unattended on the tarmac for hours. The B-52 pilot and crew boarded the aircraft and conducted their checks. But due to flawed verification procedures, they had no idea they were flying live nukes. When the plane took off, it became the first time since 1968 that a U.S. bomber knowingly or unknowingly transported nuclear weapons across American airspace. The flight lasted about 3.5 hours. The bomber landed at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, where the cruise missiles were supposed to be offloaded and processed for retirement. But it wasn't until the next day, over 36 hours after the weapons were first moved, that personnel at Barksdale noticed something was wrong. A maintenance crew realized that some of the missiles still had nuclear warheads attached. Alarms went off, figuratively and literally, and the base was put on alert. Officials quickly traced the mistake back to Minot. The implications were staggering. For over a day, 6 live nukes had been unaccounted for in the U.S. nuclear inventory. The media caught wind of the incident within days, and the Pentagon was forced to confirm what had happened. It was an unprecedented breach of nuclear weapons handling protocol. Investigations followed, fast and furious. The U.S. Air Force immediately grounded all similar operations and ordered a complete inventory check of all nuclear weapons and delivery systems. The fallout was serious. Several high-ranking officers were relieved of duty. Over 70 airmen lost their certification to handle nuclear weapons. The Air Force was embarrassed on a global stage, and confidence in the security of the U.S. nuclear arsenal took a major hit. Even Secretary of Defense Robert Gates stepped in, stating bluntly that such a breach was simply unacceptable. So how did it happen? The incident exposed multiple points of failure. First, the process for verifying whether a missile was armed or unarmed had become disturbingly lax. Personnel involved in moving the weapons failed to inspect them properly. Checklists were ignored. Standard operating procedures were treated more like suggestions. There was also confusion over where the missiles were stored and which ones were slated for decommissioning. To make matters worse, the chain of command didn't catch the error because accountability systems had eroded. Documents that should have been reviewed and signed off never made it past lower levels. Everyone assumed someone else had done the final verification. In reality, no one had. But the bigger issue was cultural. A sense of complacency had set in. The Cold War had been over for nearly 2 decades. Handling nuclear weapons, once seen as a sacred responsibility, had become routine and dull. The Air Force had shifted focus to conventional operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. Nuclear units were underfunded, understaffed, and increasingly forgotten. The 2007 incident was a wake-up call, one that shook the very foundations of U.S. nuclear command and control. In the months that followed, sweeping changes were implemented. The Air Force restructured its entire nuclear oversight system. The Global Strike Command was created to centralize control and improve training, oversight, and accountability. Still, the fact remains. For 36 hours, one of the most heavily regulated and dangerous arsenals in human history lost track of 6 nuclear warheads. Not stolen, not sabotaged, just misplaced, like office supplies or spare tires. And if that doesn't chill your spine, consider this. Had the B-52 crashed, or had the weapons been stolen during transit, the consequences could have been catastrophic. Even without a nuclear detonation, the political fallout alone might have triggered an international crisis or domestic panic. Some experts argue that we were lucky, that the system worked because the error was eventually caught. Others say that's wishful thinking, and that we dodged a disaster by sheer chance. Either way, it's a sobering reminder of how even the most powerful military in the world can be undone by human error and institutional neglect. In the years since, the incident has become a case study in military academies and nuclear policy circles. It's a symbol of both vulnerability and resilience, a reminder that nuclear weapons are only as safe as the people and systems entrusted to manage them. And while it didn't trigger a war or a mass casualty event, it exposed something far scarier: how close we can come to disaster without even knowing it. If you found this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon for more content like this. This is J03. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.